My name is Brady Allen Reamer. I'm 28 years old and I have Melissophobia, the fear of bees. Most people don't like bees because getting stung hurts for a while, which is fair. I'm terrified of them because those buzzing little fuckers could actually kill me. I just didn't know that until I was 11. I was born and raised in Sarasota, Florida, and lived there until I was 14, when my family moved to New Braunfels, Texas, after my aunt was in a serious car accident. Praise Jesus, she made a full recovery. At first, the doctors thought she'd lose the use of her legs, but after 6 months of physical therapy, she was walking on her own again. The incident that earned me my fear happened a few years earlier when I was 11. One afternoon, my older brother, Ryder, 15 at the time, and one of his idiot friends, Bryce, dragged me along to a pasture near our house so they could play catch. They were both on the freshman baseball team, and my mom wanted a little peace and quiet. My dad was away chaperoning a Boy Scouts trip with my youngest brother, BJ, and my sister Rocky was out with her friends. I was collateral damage. We were looking for a good open spot when Bryce spotted a massive beehive hanging from a tree. And because teenage boys are biologically incapable of leaving bad ideas alone, he decided to throw the baseball at it as hard as he could, just to see what would happen. To be fair, boys do dumb shit like that all the time. Some throw rocks at beehives, some grab bed sheets and jump off roofs convinced they've invented parachutes. Some try to climb into zoo exhibits because monkeys throw their poo and I wanted to join in on the fun. My mom stopped me from doing that last one. I was mad at her for days, but looking back, she made the right call. No one needed another Harambe situation. When Bryce hit the hive, every single bee inside it came after all three of us, not just the moron who destroyed their home. I ran for the house, but the bees were faster. I don't know how many times I was stung. Doctors later estimated somewhere between 10 and 20. What no one knew, not me, not my parents, was that I was severely allergic. By all accounts, I should have died in that field. The ER doctors told my parents that if they'd found me even 5 minutes later, I wouldn't be here telling this story. From that moment on, my fear of bees became a matter of survival. I don't go anywhere outdoors without my EpiPen. I keep my distance from hives. I stay alert in parks and open spaces. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared. We lost touch with Bryce when we moved to Texas, which I consider a bonus. My parents pursued legal action against his family for my pain and suffering, but they never told me how it turned out. Honestly, I don't really care. Because of his idiocy, I almost died, but I didn't, and that's enough for me. As if it wasn't bad enough that I was minutes away from death as a kid because of bees, I also had a really rough experience with them when I was 18, the summer after I graduated high school. But it wasn't because I antagonized them in any way, on account of how I learned my lesson the first time when I was 11. It was much worse. I remember sitting around a bonfire with my best friend Ben and 3 other friends of ours, Andreas, Mackenzie, and Teresa. We were drinking. Yes, we were underage, and no, none of us cared, and talking about our plans for the future now that we'd escaped the prison known as high school. The fire cracked and popped, throwing sparks into the dark. Somewhere beyond the ring of light, insects hummed. I tried not to think too much about it. I would love to be a pop star, Mackenzie said, lifting her wine cooler. I'm planning on moving out to San Diego in the near future to pursue my dream. San Diego? Teresa asked. Why not LA or Hollywood? Because that's where everyone goes to get their 15 minutes, Mackenzie said. I want a career, not a miracle. I feel like I'd actually stand out in San Diego. Where's American Idol filmed? I asked. Ben laughed. That's kind of a random question. I'm just saying, maybe Mackenzie could audition next season. I bet she'd win in a landslide. Aw, thanks, Brady, she smiled. I was actually voted most likely to win American Idol in high school, but I've heard horror stories about the contracts they force you into, and I want control over my own music. Speaking of American Idol, Andrea said, have you been watching that Sapphire Sky girl? She's unreal. Dude, I know, Ben said. I don't even watch the show normally, but something about her just hits. I even voted for her like 10 times. Is she cute? I asked. Ben shoved my shoulder. Yes, but that's not why I voted for her. What about you, Teresa? Mackenzie asked. What do you want to do? I want to be a rapper, Teresa said without hesitation, with a legacy similar to Nicki Minaj. I want to make money and take care of my family, especially my mom. She struggled my whole life raising my siblings and me on her own after my dad passed in a hit and run, and I want to give her everything in return. That'd be incredible, Andrea said. I lifted my beer, took a drink, and a bee drifted into the edge of the firelight. It hovered near my head, lazy and curious. My stomach tightened before my brain could catch up. I swatted at it without thinking. Go away, I muttered. The bee dipped, circled once, then buzzed closer. I stood up too fast in an attempt to get away from it. Not today, tiny black and yellow Satan. Everything okay over there, Brady? Teresa asked. Yeah, I forced a laugh as I sat next to Ben on the log, just negotiating with a bee that doesn't seem to understand personal boundaries. The bee finally veered off, disappearing into the dark. I didn't get back up right away. Aren't you allergic to bee stings? Andreas asked. I am, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my EpiPen, holding it up so they could see. That's why I keep this on me, all the time. Ben nodded. I still can't believe nobody knew until you were 11. You only found out when you were 11? Mackenzie asked. You'd never been stung before? Nope, I said. I made it for years without a problem. Until you almost died, Ben said. Yeah, I replied, until then. I slid the EpiPen back into my pocket and finally sat down, closer to the fire than before. The buzzing never came back, but I kept listening for it anyway. The night after the bonfire, we didn't go straight home. That was how most bad decisions in my life started. Nobody saying no, everyone saying why not. Ben was the first one to suggest it. He said it casually, like it wasn't a pivot point, like he wasn't nudging the universe. My cousin told me about this old quarry a couple hours out, he said as he tossed another log on the fire. Nobody goes there anymore. I thought it'd be the perfect place to camp out for a night or two. Camp? I repeated. Just for one night, Andreas said quickly, already pulling his phone out. Maybe 2, tops, before everyone takes their own path towards their futures. Mackenzie smiled at that. It does kind of feel like the last dance, huh? Teresa nodded. Our last hurrah before real life starts breathing down our necks. They all looked at me. I didn't say anything right away. I stared into the fire and thought about insects humming just outside the light, about dirt and brush and places no one maintained anymore. I don't really do camping, I said quietly. You'll be fine, Ben assured me, too fast. It's not like we're hiking through the Amazon or anything. It's just tents, beer, and bad sleep. But if it makes you feel better, we can bring things to make the experience more comfortable for us. Like air mattresses, Mackenzie suggested. That way we won't have to resort to sleeping directly on the ground in our tents. Andreas grinned. Besides, you'll have 4 people around you at all times. Nothing's gonna happen. That sentence lodged itself somewhere deep and uncomfortable. Nothing's going to happen. I reached into my pocket and felt the familiar shape of the EpiPen. Solid, real, proof that I was prepared. I'll bring extra stuff, I said, just in case. See, Teresa said, way to be prepared. That's what they always called it, prepared. We left 2 days later. Andreas's uncle rented an SUV for us to take for the weekend, since none of us were old enough to rent the car ourselves. We didn't do any real planning beyond snacks, a cooler, blow-up air mattresses, and whatever camping gear Ben could borrow. The road stretched longer than I expected, cell service thinning until my phone flickered between bars and nothing. I watched the scenery change. Neat roads giving way to dust, houses thinning out, fences leaning like they'd given up. Mackenzie sat in the back seat. earbuds in, humming to herself. Teresa scrolled through photos of outfits she said she'd wear once she made it. Andreas drove with one hand on the wheel, tapping along to the radio. Ben rode shotgun, windows down, arm out, like he belonged there. I told myself I was overthinking. Still, I checked my pockets again. I had everything. My EpiPen, my phone, and my keys were all safe and secure. Ben turned around in the front seat. "Are you okay back there?" he asked. I managed to force a smile. "Yeah," I lied. I could tell Ben didn't believe me, but he didn't push the issue further. He just gave me a reassuring smile and turned back around. The quarry didn't look like much when we arrived. It was just an open scar in the earth, ringed by scrub and half-dead trees. There was an old equipment shed off to one side, rusted and sagging, like it was being held upright by habit more than structure. The air felt heavier there, not hotter per se, but thicker. "This place is kind of creepy," Teresa said as she pulled her backpack out of the trunk of the car. "Creepiness adds character," Andreas replied. Mackenzie laughed. "It's fine, guys, it's daylight." Daylight. I nodded, even though the word didn't comfort me the way it used to. As we unloaded the car, I noticed the ground wasn't as still as it should have been. It wasn't necessarily moving, it was just alive in that subtle way you only notice when you're already paying attention. I told myself I was imagining it. I always did. "Hey," Ben said, clapping his hands together, "let's get camp set up and then relax. We earned this." I looked out at the open space. The dirt, the trees, the places where things could hide. Relax, sure. I tried to push the unease to the back of my mind and enjoy this last outing with my friends before real life sunk its claws into us. By the time we finished unloading the car, the sun had started its slow drop toward the horizon. The heat backed off just enough to be tolerable, and whatever tension I'd been carrying loosened a notch. Setting up camp gave us something to do with our hands, something normal. Ben and Andreas wrestled with the tent poles, arguing about instructions neither of them had actually taken the time to read. Teresa laid out blankets and snacks like she was staging a picnic instead of camping near a defunct quarry. Mackenzie wandered around humming to herself, occasionally stopping to take photos of the sky as it shifted from harsh blue to soft orange. I focused on the small things I could control. I cleared rocks from the ground where my air mattress would go. I double-checked the pump and made sure the air mattress didn't have any holes or cuts in it. I placed my backpack close enough that I could reach it without thinking. The EpiPen stayed in the top pocket where it always lived. Nothing buzzed, nothing crawled, nothing stung. The longer that stayed true, the quieter my thoughts became. "See?" Ben said to me at one point, like he could hear them easing. "I told you this place was chill." I nodded. I even started to believe it a little. As dusk settled in, Andreas got the fire going. The first flame caught fast, licking up dry wood and sending sparks into the air. Smoke curled upward and disappeared into the darkening sky. The smell of it, burnt wood and something sharp, cut through the dust and heat. The light changed everything. The quarry started to look less like an open wound and more like a bowl holding us together. Shadows stretched long, but the fire pulled us inward, made the space feel smaller, safer. We sat in a loose circle, passing drinks, letting the day unwind. Mackenzie talked about San Diego again, about open mic nights, the beach air, and how she could already picture herself setting up her new life there. Teresa joked about how she'd still rap about the same hometown even after she made it big. Andreas told a story that went nowhere but took 10 minutes to get there. Ben laughed louder than anyone else, head tipped back, like this was exactly where he was supposed to be. I listened. For a while, I forgot to scan the edges of the light. At some point, I realized I was sitting on the ground without thinking about what might be under me. That realization made my stomach flutter. Not fear exactly, but surprise. Maybe this was what normal felt like? The fire popped suddenly, sending a shower of sparks upward. I flinched before I could stop myself. Ben noticed. He always did. "Dude, are you okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Sorry, I guess I'm just a little jumpy." "It's been a long day," Teresa said. "We're all a bit wound up." I nodded and took another drink of the water from my canteen. The ice-cold water felt nice and cleared up my dry throat, giving me a little relief from the heat. The sky went dark piece by piece. Crickets started up somewhere beyond the firelight, their sound steady and rhythmic. I told myself that if I could hear them, that meant things were balanced, alive, but not hostile. I leaned back on my elbows and stared at the stars breaking through the darkness. For the first time since we'd arrived, I felt like I could breathe. That was when Mackenzie stood up. "I'm going to walk around a bit," she said. "Stretch my legs before it gets too dark." "Don't wander too far," Andreas said. She smiled. "Don't worry, I won't." She stepped just past the edge of the firelight, her silhouette thinning as the shadows swallowed her. I watched her go longer than necessary. Something tugged at me, quiet, insistent. The same feeling I got when I knew a storm was coming before the clouds showed up. I told myself I was being stupid, and I stayed where I was, keeping an eye on her. Mackenzie didn't go far. She stayed within sight of the fire, just far enough that her face blurred at the edges, the light turning her into a shape instead of a person. I told myself that meant everything was fine. If we could still see her, we could still get to her. She bent down near the old equipment shed, the one we'd noticed earlier but hadn't talked about. It squatted at the edge of the quarry like a tired animal, rusted metal panels bowing outward, one corner half sunk into the dirt. "Be careful over there," Ben called. "I'm good," Mackenzie said. "I think there's something metal sticking out of the ground." The words tightened something in my chest. She nudged it with her foot. At first, nothing happened. Then I heard it. Not buzzing, not yet. It was a low vibration, almost beneath sound, like pressure building inside my ears. The kind of noise you feel before you recognize it, the way thunder sometimes arrives before lightning makes sense of it. I sat up straighter. The vibration thickened, spreading outward in a way that didn't belong to wind or machinery. It wasn't coming from the air, it was coming from the ground. Mackenzie tilted her head. "Do you guys hear that?" Ben frowned. "Hear what?" The sound sharpened, still quiet but unmistakable now. A collective movement, layered and restless. The dirt near her foot shivered, not enough to scatter, just enough to look wrong. My heart started to pound. This wasn't memory. This wasn't my imagination. This was the sound that came before. "Mackenzie," I said, already standing, "don't move." She laughed, nervous. "What? Why not?" The vibration rose another notch, the pitch tightening like a coil. The fire popped behind me, loud and sudden, and I flinched, but I didn't take my eyes off her. I watched the ground at her feet, watched the thin seam in the dirt begin to darken as something beneath it pressed upward. Time slowed in that cruel, unreal way it only does when you know what's about to happen and can't stop it. "Mackenzie," I said again, louder this time. "Back up now." She cocked her head to the side. "What? Why?" "Don't ask questions, just do what I say and back up. Slowly, please." She sensed the urgency in my voice and shifted her weight. The ground answered with a split. Not wide, not dramatic, but just enough. A seam tore open where Mackenzie's foot had been, dirt lifting and collapsing as something beneath it surged upward. The sound broke fully free, no longer a vibration but a living roar, sharp and electric and wrong. Yellow jackets poured out of the earth. Not flying at first, they were crawling, spilling over one another in a frantic rush, bodies colliding, wings snapping open as they found air. The swarm thickened in seconds, a boiling mass that rose and twisted as one. Mackenzie screamed. I didn't move. That's the part I still hate admitting. For one frozen beat, my body locked up, every nerve firing at once. Heat, sound, memory crashing together so hard, it stole the ability to choose. I felt like I was 11 again. I was back in that open field. I was already too late. Then Mackenzie fell. As she tried to escape, the heel of her hiking boot caught on the edge of the metal housing. She went down hard, her backpack yanking her sideways. The scream tore out of her throat, sharp and panicked, and something in me snapped loose. I ran. The first sting hit my forearm before I reached her, then another on my neck, then my scalp. Each one landed like a match being struck, heat blooming instantly into pain. The buzzing swallowed everything, fire, voices, thought, until the world narrowed to motion and sound. "Get up," I shouted, grabbing her backpack straps. She tried. Her foot twisted uselessly, tangled, and the bees were already on her, hands, hair, face. She was crying now, choking on it, swatting wildly. I hauled her backward, dragging her across dirt and rock. Bees slammed into my cheeks, my mouth, my eyes. One crawled across my lips and stung the inside before I could spit it out. White pain flared up. My throat tightened. "Count," my brain screamed. "Count them. Count the seconds." Halfway back, my legs buckled. I shoved Mackenzie forward with everything I had left. She tumbled clear of the swarm, arms scrambling, hands grabbing at air until someone, Ben, Andreas, I couldn't tell, caught her and pulled her farther away. I hit the ground hard. Bees and yellow jackets crawled all over my chest, my neck, my face. The sound was inside me now, vibrating through bone. I slapped at them, hands shaking so badly I could barely aim. I fumbled for my pocket, but I missed my EpiPen. The panic surged now, hot and blinding. I forced myself to slow down, to feel instead of flail. Fingers closed around plastic. I finally yanked the EpiPen free, jammed it into my thigh, and pressed until it clicked. The pain barely registered. The buzzing didn't stop. A pair of hands grabbed my shoulders. Someone was shouting my name. I rolled onto my side, gasping, vision tunneling as the world smeared into color and sound. The last thing I saw before the swarm finally scattered was the ground where the nest had been, still moving, still alive, like it was waiting to see if I'd make it. I regained consciousness to realize someone was gently cradling my head. I didn't know who at first. All I knew was that the buzzing was finally gone, replaced by a high, hollow ringing that made everything feel far away. The fire was still burning, but it looked wrong now, too bright, too sharp, like it didn't belong to us anymore. "Don't move," a voice said, Teresa's. She was crying so hard her words broke apart. "Please don't move." I'm okay," I tried to say, but it came out thick, my tongue clumsy and swollen. Ben was kneeling in front of me, hands hovering, like he didn't know where it was safe to touch. His face had gone gray. I'd never seen him look like that. "You used it," Ben said, staring at my leg. "You used your EpiPen." I nodded once. The motion made the world tilt. Mackenzie was sitting a few feet away, wrapped in someone's hoodie. Andreas crouched beside her with an arm around her shoulders. Her face was already swelling, eyes glassy and unfocused. She was breathing fast, shallow, like she didn't trust her lungs. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I didn't know. I didn't know." No one answered her, and no one blamed her. The sirens came from far away, then closer, then everywhere. Red and blue light washed over the quarry, over the dirt, over the place where the ground had betrayed us. Paramedics moved fast, efficient, stepping around the fire like it was just another obstacle. Hands pressed on my chest, fingers checked my throat. Someone asked my name, my age, what I was allergic to. "Bees," Ben said for me. His voice cracked on the word. They loaded Mackenzie first. I remember noticing that. I remember being relieved she was conscious. Then they lifted me onto the stretcher, straps clicking tight across my body. The sky above me was black now, stars smeared into streaks by the lights. I tried to count my breaths. I lost track. In the ambulance, everything smelled like antiseptic and plastic. The medic watched me too closely, eyes flicking to my throat, my hands, the monitor. "How many times have you been stung?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "That's okay," he replied. "Just keep talking." So I did. I talked about nothing, about school being over, about how stupid camping was, about how warm the beer had been, about how nice the water felt. He nodded like it all mattered. The hospital blurred together, white walls, clipped voices, the slow drip of time. Doctors repeated the same line that I heard 7 years prior. Had I been found even 5 minutes later, I wouldn't be alive. Mackenzie was admitted overnight. I wasn't allowed to see her. When they finally discharged me, it was morning. Ben drove us back. No music, no talking. Andrea stared out the window. Teresa kept her hands folded tight in her lap like she was holding herself together by force. No one asked me how I was. No one needed to. They were just thankful that I was alive and that I didn't let the bees take me. We didn't camp again after that. Mackenzie never brought up the quarry. When people did, she went quiet, like the memory didn't belong to her anymore. Teresa cried once when a bee got into her car months later and had to pull over to calm herself down before she had a panic attack. Andrea started making jokes about safety, but they always landed flat. Ben changed the most. He still checked on me, he still showed up, but there was something careful in the way he watched me now, like he was afraid of what I'd do if something went wrong again. So was I, because the worst part wasn't the pain, or the fear, or even how close I came to dying. It was knowing that when the sound started, when the ground answered, I didn't really choose to run. I just ran, toward the danger, not away from it. Once you learn that about yourself, there's no unlearning it. People still ask me if I came out of it more or less afraid of bees. I never have a clean answer for them. The danger didn't change. Bees can still kill me, and that's not something time or courage can fix. And unlike most fears, it isn't something I can avoid if I'm careful enough. Ben can stay away from spiders, Callie avoids snakes, Randy crosses the street when he sees a rat. Katie has structured her entire adult life around never encountering a clown. Their fears live in specific places, mine doesn't. Bees exist everywhere, which means vigilance is just part of my daily routine now. I scan rooms, I check trees, I carry my EpiPen the way other people carry their keys, without thinking, but never leaving my home without it. My doctor prescribed 2 extra EpiPens, and I gave them to people I trust to act on my behalf when I can't. Ben has one. My girlfriend Vanna has the other. That isn't panic, it's preparation. Fear doesn't leave when it's earned. It just changes shape. It settles into your reflexes. It teaches your body to move before your brain has time to argue. Sometimes, though, it loosens its grip, like it did in the quarry when Mackenzie was attacked by yellow jackets, and I didn't stop to think about what would happen to me if I stepped in. I still don't understand that moment. I don't think it was bravery. I think it was instinct choosing someone else over myself. I live with fear. I just don't let it dictate who I am anymore.